Here's something every football fan should know. You can get anything you need for game day delivered with Uber Eats. Well, almost anything, because you can't get your dream running back for your fantasy team delivered with Uber Eats. But they will deliver flapjacks, tacos, and six-packs. Great pass protection? No. Great pizza selection? Yes. Championship defense? No. Deodorant? Yes. Turnovers? No. Turnovers the pastry? Yes. Because that's groceries, and get those delivered with Uber Eats too, and food from your favorite restaurants, and other essentials. So this season, get anything, well, almost anything for game day by ordering on the Uber Eats app. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime. This Thursday, it's a fight between NFC North rivals when the Detroit Lions head to Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. Not a Prime member? Sign up for a 30-day free trial to stream the game. It's the Lions and the Packers on Thursday Night Football, and it's on Prime. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast with Borg, Betz, and a Baller.
Welcome in. Wednesday, September 27th. We're back. It's the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I am joined by my facial-haired friends, Matthew Betz and Jason Moore.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you lump me and my beautiful beard in with, I know that right now this is audio only. We don't have video, but that is for the Foot Clan. That is for our listeners, so they do not have to be subjected to whatever is growing on your disgusting face, Matthew Betz.
If this was video, we would 100% be getting flagged for this. I mean,
hide your kid.
This is not, you should not be seeing this. I feel bad for you guys. I am happy for the Foot Clan. They do not have to experience this. But yeah, Kyle and I have joked about it.
I feel bad for any parent walking down the street who sees you. I mean,
my wife
if I was
daily
down there with my children, I would probably pick them up and carry them at that point.
My kids have cried every time they've seen me for the last 2 weeks.
I
am rocking a crusty, I mean crusty, goatee currently that will be turned into a mustache in approximately 10 days or so. Yes, my brother-in-law is getting married, and he has requested all the guys rock a mustache on the wedding day. So, yeah, I look disgusting right now, but I'm proud of it, guys. I'm proud.
Can I just say, as a member of this company, we haven't had our annual HR review, and that's on Mike, who's head of HR. But I feel like we should draft something about just decency in the workplace, because I for one am intimidated. And I don't know, Jason, is that something that maybe we can get going at HQ?
Yeah, HQ is going to definitely get that going. We've got standards to keep.
We're glad you're here. We're glad you're with us on this audio format. We're talking Dynasty, and we're talking old people today. We're talking geriatrics on this show because for some reason, week 3 wanted to gift us with all of the old people rising up and rioting for fantasy football purposes. I mean, like, people's rosters, like Andy's, I know, for certain in Dynasty, just all the old people just went to town.
Yeah, they're going ham this year.
And it's crazy because the Dynasty, I don't know, the way that we usually say things is like, okay, well, once they get old, you should trade them away and you get some value. But that doesn't work. That doesn't work if your team's competing and these players are showing out for your teams. Like, that's one of the beauties of Dynasty. You can't just give across-the-board directives of, here's the advice, move on. Like, every league is different, and every team that has, I don't know, Adam Thielen on it, who we're not going to talk a ton about today, but like, you're not just trading Adam Thielen away for beans if you're competing. Like, he's helping your team, and you probably didn't expect it, right?
Yeah, I mean, there needs to be in most Dynasty leagues, most well-run Dynasty leagues, there needs to be a consolidation of aged veterans going to the contending teams, right? I mean, that should work itself out naturally, where the teams that aren't competing need to capitalize on these veterans who aren't going to help them when it matters for them, and then the teams that are competing need to go after some of these guys so that they can be put over the top. And we're gonna discuss which ones maybe are worth grabbing, trading for, which ones maybe you should trade away on the hotness, et cetera, et cetera. But you're right, the context of what is your team, where are you at in your league, it matters. There is almost never a universal answer in fantasy for any player other than Zach Wilson. For everyone else, there has to be context.
Do you think that in Zach Wilson's family league, it's a little different? Like he's a hot commodity?
I don't think so, no. No, I don't.
Not a chance.
I mean,
No,
I guess if he's
wire.
in the league, he's like, oh, yeah, check this out. But then again, I want to draft like the wide receiver Jason Moore in my leagues, and he doesn't even play football.
Listen, Zach Wilson would not start himself currently in this version of himself. Not a chance. And hey, Trevor Siemian, is he the dude?
You know what? Trevor Siemian did some box score hunting 2 years ago. He had a couple of top 5 performances. So maybe that draft, I just want to quickly just sidebar here. That draft, those quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones.
The boys.
It was supposed to be one of the most full, high-end, elite quarterback draft classes in a long, long time. It reminded me quite a bit of the one where we had Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield and Josh Rosen, and pretty much everyone busted except for Josh Allen. And I think this year everyone's going to bust. Well, right, Lamar wasn't in the first, though.
Right. He was at the very end of the first.
Oh, that's right. They traded up, got that 5th year. And then hopefully Trevor Lawrence can right the ship, although this last week, maybe this season, I've been very disappointed with what we've seen. You expect a level up given everything that is working around him. He's got the coaching staff to do it. He's got the weapons to do it. He's got the division to do it. Like, the stars have aligned, and he has misplaced his, binoculars to look at the stars. You don't look at stars with binoculars. What do you do?
I saw you looking for the word. You couldn't find it. A telescope? Is that what we're looking for?
There you go. Maybe he found his binoculars, and that's the problem.
That's his issue, is that he never learned the difference between those two. All 5 of those quarterbacks, though, in that class, so Trevor Lawrence, ones we just named, I feel like they've ping-ponged every single year between are they good or do they have a chance or do they not have a chance? Like, we've done it with Wilson where it was like discarded him. It's like, okay, well, at least he's on your roster. Okay, now we're throwing him away. Lance, we ping-ponged forever. Lawrence, we ping-ponged last year, and now we're back to like, And then, Mac Jones, same thing. At least we're getting pass attempts this year. And then Justin Fields, like all 5 of those quarterbacks, depending on the last 2 years when you talk to somebody, you could have had value for them in Dynasty, and now it's like all 5. I mean, who would you rather have on a Dynasty roster right now? Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields?
Oh, Trevor Lawrence without the remotest question. I mean, we kind of talked about this on the main show with Justin Fields. I'm a Justin Fields fantasy football believer. I'll trade for Justin Fields right now.
Keyword, fantasy football.
100%. I will trade for Justin Fields in a redraft right now, and you probably don't have to. You can wait for waivers to run tomorrow, and he might be there, and I'll go hard after him. I want Justin Fields on my roster. Justin Fields is going to put up monstrous fantasy performances the rest of the season. I don't even think that's a question or a hot take. It just feels stupid right now with how bad he's playing real football. But the problem for dynasty leagues with Justin Fields is that real football matters. Real football doesn't really matter in redraft. It's just opportunity and points you're scoring. But in dynasty, if you're not good at real football, you don't keep your job. And so the Bears are going to be right now, it looks like they will be, between their pick and Carolina's pick, they're going to have a top 4 pick, if not the first pick. They will be in a position to draft a great new quarterback. They will 100% be drafting a great new quarterback. What it would take for them to not draft and replace Justin Fields this coming offseason, there's only one thing that can happen, and that's Justin Fields completely leveling up, winning too many games in order for them to not have that pick, but he still can't even control Carolina giving them that pick. He's just got to prove that he's a star player. And I don't know how that's possible. I don't know how you could play the first 3 weeks looking how he looks, kind of how he looked last year, and then magically change. You can magically change for fantasy. You could be like, oh, we're just going to have him run the ball a ton because he's not throwing well and score great for fantasy. But for winning ball games for the Bears, so yeah, it's not a question for me. Trevor Lawrence has a long-term job. Trevor Lawrence is a starter for the next 8 years, even if he's mediocre, even if he turns into, peak Andy Dalton. But Justin Fields, I'm guessing, doesn't have a job next year.
Yeah, I completely echo all that. I brought him up last time the three of us talked 2 episodes ago. Like, look, the warning signs are there, and I was hoping we'd see something in the last couple of weeks to turn it around. It's gotten worse. I mean,
you were early.
Not just on the field, but like off the field. I mean, the vibes could not be worse currently, right? With the Bears, you have to win in the NFL to keep your job, and that does not look likely to happen this year. So yeah, I'm worried if I have Fields in Dynasty. I do agree though, like the rushing attempts I think are coming. They have to. That's the only option. But is he a starter next year? I don't think so.
It's funny because I agree. I would take Trevor Lawrence. Before the season, you would have gotten probably a coin flip of what people preferred in Dynasty and which quarterback was on the way up. Because you kind of said at the end of the tier, if I get one of those elite quarterbacks like in a super flex startup, give me, at least I know Lawrence or Fields will be there at the end of the first round. And now if you would have started your startup that way, you're like, oh gosh, are these guys like cornerstones for my team? Or is it just kind of like, I don't know what I have in a couple years. So it is wild how things change. We're headed into week 4. And I wanted to do another little retake. Jason wasn't here for this last week, so let's try this again.
Boy, you kind of snuck up on me there.
I am very, very sneaky, sir.
I wanted to get a couple of sneaky stat lines for Dynasty purposes, bring them up, and we'll play a little game here, okay? So I didn't tell you guys who these are, and we'll have quick little discussions here, but these are some stats that I've dug up and the implications that it has for other players on the team too. So this first stat is for a tight end, okay? So I didn't tell Betz, didn't tell Jason at all. This is a tight end that in week 3 ran 32 routes. Would you guys say that's pretty good?
Yeah.
That's awesome for a tight end. He saw 8 targets as a tight end.
That's great.
That's pretty good. He led his team in targets per route run at 25%. What would you say about that so far?
I mean, that's checking all the boxes.
Okay, and knowing me, what am I trying to do? I'm just trying to just pull the rug out from you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so through 3 weeks, this tight end has a 21% targets per route run number. That's better than Mark Andrews, better than Evan Ingram, and I'm going to throw this in there. It's better than Kyle Pitts, and I threw Kyle Pitts in there for a reason. Do you guys want to guess who this tight end is?
Oh, I know it. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? Is it Geno Smith?
It is Geno Smith, people.
Oh my gross. What's funny is the whole time that you were talking, I thought it was Evan Ingram. I thought, he's running a ton of routes. He's high in targets per route run. He's doing well. And then you said he's the targets per route run number is higher than Evan Ingram. I go, well, there's my guess. So gross.
Isn't that gross? 50% of their targets last week went to tight ends. Like Kyle Pitts had 9. So like I can't disparage Kyle Pitts based on what he did. It's more of saying the offense and the way that it was functioning. 17 targets went to the tight end position, guys. So,
I mean, hey, anytime you have a chance to feed Jonnu and take away from Drake London, you got to do it. You just got to.
You got to do it. Is Jonnu worth a deep speculative pickup if he's on the wire?
Nope, not to me. I mean, I guess it. In a dynasty league, you're playing with scraps. You might need options, but goodness, we're unhappy with Kyle Pitts, right? You're super unhappy with Kyle Pitts in this system, for this team, for this quarterback. You're never going to be able to start him confidently in this system with this quarterback, blah, 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 blah. So, no, Geno Smith, I go back to my original argument. You should not pick him up.
Okay. If Kyle Pitts went down, he's worth a pickup.
Sure, yeah, he can be an insurance tight end on the waiver wire. But even then, I mean, if Geno Smith wasn't around, does that mean Kyle Pitts is doing something special? I mean, I'm looking at week 1. Geno Smith had, he was only on the field 50% of the time. He had no targets, no attempts, he didn't touch the ball. Kyle Pitts still wasn't good.
Yeah. Oh, man. Anyway, next stat, number 2 here. This is a running back who had 8 red zone opportunities in week 3. That was tied with Tony Pollard and Devon. I'm going to mess this up. Achan? Dang it. I second guess myself.
What is it?
So hard. Achan.
Achan.
All right. I'm going to mess that up 100 times this year.
I love that Andy talked about on the show. He was just like, I know we're going to mess this up. 5 seconds later, messes it up. All right, so 8 red zone opportunities last week. It's pretty good. They had 42% of the snaps. That was actually their lowest of the season, but they had their best fantasy output of the year. They were RB11 on 18 opportunities, okay? So RB11 this past week, 8 red zone opportunities, and the last thing I'll throw in there is their running back teammate actually had a better week than them fantasy-wise.
I'm pretty confident I know who this is because I was specifically looking. I wanted to see. I liked this player this last week. I recommended people start him, and he had a decent game. Like you said, he was the running back 11, but I was surprised after the fact to look up his snap percentages being the lowest of the 3 weeks. I thought for sure he was out there more, so I will hold off on my guess. Betz, you got a guess?
Well, after hearing you talk, I 100% know that I am incorrect. But the name that came to mind, just because of the pain, Kyle and I talked a lot about this a lot on our DFS show. The fact that you said he was tied with Tony Pollard for the red zone opportunities, I felt like every time I watched that Cardinals game, Rico Dowdle was on the TV, and I was like, what is happening? So that was the name that popped in my head, and I know he scored a touchdown, so like maybe he was a top 12 guy. That's the name that came up in my head, but I know you would not have recommended to start him. So who is it?
Isaiah Pacheco?
It is Isaiah Pacheco. Yeah. No, nice, Jason. Yeah, 8 red zone opportunities in a week where they were, the game was done at halftime, right? Is pretty awesome. And 18 opportunities. I think he's an interesting person to trade for right now in a couple of different leagues. Mike and I might be trying to trade for him in a league together, and it's not working. But the opportunity's there. We know the offense is good. So last stat I want to give you. It's a quarterback. This quarterback went 23 of 25 inside a clean pocket in week 3. So they had a 92% completion rate in week 3 inside the pocket. That was number 1 in the league, ahead of Justin Herbert. Okay? So awesome week. And on the season, this quarterback has the same exact passer rating inside a clean pocket as Patrick Mahomes. Who is this quarterback?
So I've got a guess from the first one, but the last part means it's impossible.
I'll throw this out there. They slayed this past week, like way better than they've been doing the first 2 weeks. They looked way better.
All right. Well, I mean, that fits my guess. I just would be shocked if from a clean pocket he has the same numbers as Mahomes because he has not looked good to me this season. But I know he threw a lot of passes this last week.
I'll say that this quarterback has been really bad when pressured.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson.
It's Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I was going to throw out too. Yeah, he looked good this past week. Hey, he looked good to everyone not named Mike Wright. If you need context on that, listen to Tuesday's show. Yeah. Dude completed over 80% of his passes, and Mike was like, nope, didn't see it. No, he was good against the Titans, but I mean, the Titans' pass defense is not good.
Yeah. I think my the ceiling of what I think Watson still was open. It's hard for me to say oh man, could he finish as a top 5 quarterback ever again? Based on this version, no. But he can be a QB8 this year. And you would be very happy with that if he finishes QB8, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was encouraged based on what I saw. So if they can give him a clean pocket, he's good. If he's pressured, but that's so many quarterbacks in the league, right? When things break down, Sam Howell's going to just fart around, right? Those are the kind of quarterbacks.
This past weekend.
He was scared this past week. So those are sneaky stat lines for the week. Maybe we'll throw out some more sneaky stuff later on, but let's get to our main segment.
Old, bland, and undervalued.
Nothing says old people like Pop the Weasel, right?
That is pretty old.
Guys, this is a drop that Footballers hasn't used since 2017, Jason. It's been a while. Actually,
it's pretty old.
I found found the episode, and yeah, you were talking about Larry Fitzgerald, which made sense for the episode.
He was pretty old.
Very fitting.
Sidebar. So, we're dads here. Have you guys thought about, like, as an old person, like, do you have a grandpa name for yourself that you want to be? Grandpa persona?
Like Pop or something.
Poo-pop.
I have not thought about that because I'm going to be honest with you, Kyle. I really do not want to be a grandpa soon. I've got a daughter who is 14, and I would like to put off being a grandpa for as long as possible, okay?
You're the closest grandpa of this group. Usually it's
Yeah.
Andy, but it's you, Jason.
Yeah, today it's me.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
All right, so old, bland, and undervalued is not something you usually want to say with Dynasty, right? Usually it's like young, sexy, and just to the moon is what we're going for. We want to discuss some players that so far their performances have been really good. And maybe ask the question, will it continue? Will there be some trade values? We mentioned Adam Thielen, and Betz, you said you had some legal obligation that you could not talk about him today?
That's right. This came down from corporate. They said no positive Adam Thielen talk on any show that we do if it's not Andy. So we leave that to Andy, but I do have to just say quickly before we move on, like, he's been so good. He's been so good. And he's getting targeted, right? So much. I'm not sure that's going to last, especially with the rookie quarterback as Bryce Young comes back eventually. But it is hard to ignore. He's been awesome.
Well, that was a man who did not listen to corporate right there.
Is it weird that we just like we're excited for Bryce Young? He's number one. We're like, hey, but like, can you just like hold off for a little while? Because like we're kind of having fun with this team for fantasy when Andy Dalton's around. Like, it's
Yes.
it's kind of awkward.
Andy Thielen, let's go.
Also throw out, we're not going to talk about him today. Mike Evans has been balling out. Might have been the best call of anybody this year with Andy Holloway, with Mike Evans. So throwing that out there. And then this is gross. I just wanted to mention that Ravens running backs are going to continue to be a thing that you pick up in Dynasty. Whoever it is, if it's Kenyon Drake this week, if it's Melvin Gordon, Leonard Fournette, like, guys, there are going to be running backs that are on the street that will play for this team because that's just what this team does. So keep your eye out. Old, bland, undervalued. There's a reason people don't want that. So before we get to our picks, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay, football season is finally here. And here's one thing every fan should know. You can get anything you need for game day delivered with Uber Eats. Well, almost anything. Because no, you can't get your dream running back for your fantasy football team delivered with Uber Eats, but flapjacks, baby back ribs, a cold six-pack, you can definitely get those. Great pass protection? No. Great pizza selection? Yes. Championship defense? No. Deodorant? Yes. A well-executed fake punt? No. Delicious fresh produce? Yes. Game-clinching turnovers? No. But pastry turnovers? You know, the kind with the delicious apple filling? Yes. Because that's groceries. And you can get those delivered with Uber Eats too, along with food from your favorite restaurants and other essentials. And the best part, you can get it all without missing a second of the action on your TV. So this football season, stay planted on your couch and get anything, well, almost anything you need for game day by ordering on the Uber Eats app. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime. This Thursday, it's a fight between NFC North rivals when the Detroit Lions head to Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. Not a Prime member? Sign up for a 30-day free trial to stream the game. It's the Lions and the Packers on Thursday Night Football, and it's on Prime. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
All right, our first guy up. I'm going to let Jason start because he has maybe the hottest player in the sport. This hot old guy that we're going to talk about today that we did not think we were going to talk about, who is under a 2-year contract still. It's Raheem Mostert, 31 years old.
31.4 years young, Kyle. As Raheem Mostert will point out himself when he's asked about his age and how he's able to do this right now, he says, look, I didn't have a lot of tread on my tires, and he's he is not wrong. The first several years of his career, he was not really involved. And when you say, well, yeah, I mean, maybe he was behind some players and didn't get in a ton. He had 41 rushing attempts through his first 4 combined seasons of NFL stardom. So this is a guy who really didn't have a lot of wear and tear on the tires, and his tires are looking mighty fine. He's obviously a Miami Dolphin, which means he is one of the fastest players in the league. I believe the top 5 fastest clocked players this year are all Dolphins. And Raheem Mostert is the number 1 running back in fantasy football. Now, the reason that I like Raheem Mostert is because he, unlike Devon Achane, is the starter. Jeff Wilson might come back. And when Jeff Wilson comes back, we don't know if Salvon Ahmed is healthy. Maybe he's back. Maybe he's back this week. Maybe Devon Achane continues to get better and better as the season goes on. But Raheem Mostert's the starter. Raheem Mostert is the 1A and will be the 1A until injured, which obviously could happen, as happened most of his career. But when you've got a player where you go, well, he's either active and awesome or injured and I know not to start him, that's pretty much a fantasy dream situation. Now, this is a 2-year contract. I do not at all necessarily expect anything from next season. He'll be 32 next year at running back. At some point, he'll slow down. I'm not looking at him as anything but a help me this year in Dynasty asset. If you have him, congratulations. I would say that if you have him, you are already in the running, right? Like if you've been starting him, you're probably 2-1 at least. Or you've got a good chance to be 2-1 or 3-0. And if you're at that point right now, then that means you're able to get to the playoffs. And if you're able to get to the playoffs, Raheem Mostert's going to help you. So I would not trade him away. But there are players like this where even a competing team thinks in Dynasty that they think the wrong way about Dynasty assets. They think, I have to get something for him because he will be an expiring asset. Not realizing that getting something from him is maybe better than getting something for him. He is the right now the number 1 most valuable asset in fantasy football through the first 3 weeks. So, and he's always kind of been this way. I mean, literally right now, the yards per carry in the Super Bowl era, minimum 500 career carries. This stat is courtesy of good friend of the show, Ian Hartitz. You got Bo Jackson at 5.42, Jamal Charles 5.38, Nick Chubb 5.26 carry, Gus Edwards at 5.15. But that is number 2 through 5. Number 1 is Raheem Mostert. He's always been a chunk yardage machine. He's not going anywhere. This offense isn't going anywhere. So I'm completely in on Raheem Mostert. And if I don't have Raheem Mostert in a dynasty league, I'm going to go offer something for him because, and I'm not going to try to pay up. I'm going to try to just say, hey, you should try to capitalize on a 31-year-old running back having 3 good weeks and get something for him because you'll never get something from him again in the future. He's so old, and hopefully I get it. And if I do, I'm happy. If I don't, I tried.
Yeah, there's a wide range though of what people could pay because I think the sentiment with Mostert is, oh, it can't keep up or he'll get hurt. That's just who he is. The problem with that kind of thinking is you need to win. And I love how the way you put it, Jason's like, instead of thinking like, what can I get for him? Like you're getting crazy production. You might be a team that says, I'm not great. I went into this year thinking I'll be middle of the road. Maybe I'll rebuild, whatever. And all of a sudden you're 2-1 or 3-0 and you have a player on your team that is actually carrying you victories. Like you can stay with this player now because I don't know, like if someone offers you a second round and I'm competing, no, I'm not taking that. I'm just going to keep riding this out. Is that how you guys feel?
If you've
That's
got
how
him,
I feel for sure.
And and you're winning and contending, then sure. And the thing about him too is like, if you did view yourself as a contender, you didn't enter the season with Raheem Mostert as like your RB2 or RB1. He's probably like your RB4, right? Just like chilling on your bench, and you're like, oh, sweet, I got this extra, valuable asset that I didn't plan on having. So it's just like the extra, little cherry on top, so to speak. But yeah, last year too, people kind of forget Raheem Mostert was recovering from that cartilage replacement surgery in his knee. That takes a very long time to get back from. And if you just watch him on the field right now, like he looks super healthy, explosive. So this offense is fun, man.
He's also one of the sneakiest fast players. Like he had a run in week 2 against the Patriots where I go, he doesn't look like he's trying that hard. Like he just looks like he can just run by everybody.
He gets up to speed so quickly. It's unbelievable. It's just like if he slows down a little bit to avoid a tackle, he goes 0 to 100 so quickly. And I mean, that's why he's the Super Bowl era yards per carry champion right now, ahead of Bo freaking Jackson.
If let's just say he's on a team that is rebuilding, you're like, okay, I'm terrified he's just going to get hurt or something's going to change or Achane's going to be the guy. Would you take Raheem Mostert? Would you rather Raheem Mostert or the 110 this next year?
Oh, if I'm not competing, this is the time to get out, I think.
Would you want more than that?
Well, I don't think you're going to know what the pick is.
Right,
but
I'm
if
just
you
trying
can
to
get
name
first,
it because a first is just such a generic term.
Yeah, I mean,
you paint it that way, of course.
Right, yeah, but everyone has a first, and that's all that they can trade. So, yeah, I mean, you might want to, if you're not a contender, you obviously are going to be trading him to someone who is a contender. So you would imagine that you're not getting a top 5 pick. It's not going to be one of the 3 or 4 worst teams in your league that's like, let me give up a first rounder for Raheem Mostert. I mean, unless it's just a dumb manager, which maybe that's why they're one of the 3 or 4 teams. So maybe start with the bad teams, offer them for a first if you're not a contender. But yeah, I mean, I think a first-round pick, this is what I was talking about. In these leagues, in Dynasty leagues, there should be a consolidation of these veterans. They should be moved to veteran teams because veteran teams should be trading for them. But then the question is, if you're a veteran team, are you giving up a first-rounder for Raheem Mostert? Because that, to me, seems a little pricey. I'm not sure that I would pull the trigger on that for someone that has his injury history.
I think you could probably get it done for like a second and a third, something like that. Like you said, everyone knows the story with Raheem Mostert. It's like, oh, here it is, but this won't last. And that's what people think. So I'd be going for less. I would not give up a first, even if I am contending for Raheem. I just think you can get him way cheaper.
That is one of the craziest dynasty situations. An old player that you know is going to be expiring soon, that could expire as soon as next week. That's what we all think, but also is the number 1 player in fantasy. That doesn't happen very often. So
no,
marvel what he's doing. He's awesome. If you have him, just be excited. Betz, why don't you hit us with the next one?
Yeah, we talked about his quarterback. Let's talk about the wide receiver. Amari Cooper is 29.2 years old. He kind of got off to a rough start in week 1. Remember, it was like the rainy game against Joe Burrow and the Bengals, 3 catches, 37 yards, and everyone was like, oh no, this is the Deshaun Watson we knew from last year. He's terrible. And I do think that we don't have a firm answer on that yet. But we saw at least positive play from him last week. And the target tree right now in Cleveland is super condensed. You've got Amari Cooper with a 23% target share, Elijah Moore, 24% target share. Both those guys over 20% targets per route run. Amari Cooper, massive air yard share. So he's giving you kind of the upside that you're looking for and the volume. The rest of the guys on the team, they are first team all cardio. David Njoku, I just don't think it's going to happen. I mean, how many years are we going to do it with David Njoku, right? And then Donovan Peoples-Jones is literally out there running wind sprints. I mean, the targets are going to these 2 guys, Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore, and it's a small sample, so we need to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. But last week in their first game without Nick Chubb, their neutral pass rate and pass rate over expectation metrics were way higher than they had been in the first couple of weeks. Now, is that a Nick Chubb, being out thing? Is that just taking on the pass funnel Titans? Probably a little bit of both, but there's a chance they go a lot more pass heavy now that Nick Chubb is out. And I think Amari Cooper is going to be the primary beneficiary of that. I don't think he's, a guy that I would say is going to be a top 12 fantasy option, but looking back at the end of the year, if he's a wide receiver 2 in fantasy and you can get him for a pretty affordable price, seems a little undervalued to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I agree that this team as a whole, I talked about Watson, but like they're a good team. Their defense is unstoppable, and they have a fourth place schedule. So like a lot of their games are easier than maybe what we realize. So yeah, if you know you're going to get, 8 targets a game, which is great. And I don't think you have to pay up for somebody who can be a wide receiver one. He hasn't been a wide receiver one since, last year. So like you're getting a player that is undervalued because of their age. I think he just carries like this weight of like, he's always kind of banged up. He gets injured. We don't really know if Watson's good or not. Like there will be some ups and down games. He's always kind of been that player that's streaky, but he's a player that I think you can acquire. And I think what it would cost is like a late first. So would you give let's just call it 110 again? Like you're a contending team. You think you're going to be 110 through 112. Would you give that for Amari Cooper?
I think I would if you need wide receiver or you need to fill an extra flex spot. I think that's a very fair value.
Yeah, I do too. He's under contract next year. You expect to get more than just this season. He is the clear-cut number one for the team, and he's just been really good his whole career. I mean, you're getting an actual great wide receiver. He's not been the most beloved fantasy asset, but this is a guy that, I mean, what was he? He was a first round, but he was a top
4th overall.
The 4th overall pick, because he was, as I say, drafted to be great. And since that time, his wide receiver fantasy finishes have disappointed fantasy managers, and yet he has a finish of being the wide receiver 22, which is good. That's not bad. That was his rookie season. The wide receiver 13, the wide receiver 18, the wide receiver 9, the wide receiver 16, the wide receiver 9 last year. He's currently the wide receiver 16. This is a very valuable asset. Maybe he didn't turn into Jamar Chase the way you wanted him to when he was drafted number 4 overall, but he's a good wide receiver who doesn't look like he has slowed down at all. He's the number 1. He's under contract next year. Yeah, I would give up. I would give up a decent asset for Cooper.
It's wild that he's been in the league for 9 years.
Yeah, he came in
he was
young.
So young.
I believe he was 13 when he was 14. I just verified 14 years old when he was drafted.
Him and Mike Evans went to preschool together. That's basically what it's been.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of little baby boys that stay in the league forever and just been consistent. So yeah, I like that one, Betz. I like Amari Cooper. I'm going to talk about a wide receiver I've never really mentioned before, but I just figured we'd bring him up since he's old. 31 years old. It's Keenan freaking Allen, guys. And man, I haven't worn pants for the last 2 weeks. And why would I? Because what a time to be alive. And also, I do want to ask the question though, because I brought this up to Betz earlier. Keenan Allen, whenever he has to be the only guy he gets targets, they're not as efficient, though. Over the years, it hasn't been as efficient. So 20 targets last week is nuts. It's just over the top nuts. He had 13 open receptions, which is a next-gen stat. It's the most by a wide receiver in the next-gen stats era. So, like, that's what Keenan Allen does, and that's kind of like, if you were watching the game, you're like, why is he still open? Like, what are they doing? What is the coverage on this play? So, Keenan Allen, since he returned last year, and Jason, you brought this stat up too, he has been the number 1 wide receiver in football. So since he came back in week 11 last year in full PPR league. So if you have him in full PPR, you ride this out. You think it's the best thing ever. Keep going. Do you guys worry that some of his efficiency won't return in terms of just pure yardage totals, or is it just like,
nope.
No worries.
Nope. None. Zero. No worries whatsoever. He's a machine. I don't need him to be efficient. I want him to be efficient. I mean, sure, I want him to get, 16 yards of reception. But I don't care. Give me 9. I mean, I don't want 9. I want higher. But like, it doesn't matter. He's going to have so many targets, so many receptions. Even in a half PPR league, he's basically been the best wide receiver since he has come back last season. In a full PPR, his weekly finishes, obviously 2 weeks ago now he was the wide receiver 1, so he can do it, but his weekly finishes might not ever crack the top 10 on the week again, and it won't matter because he won't fall much below the wide receiver 20 in a week. He is always in your lineup, always valuable, unstoppable. I don't have a single worry about Keenan, and I know, Kyle, how that makes you feel inside.
I mean, he's wearing a Keenan Allen shirt.
I've been wearing this for 2 days straight. I haven't changed this shirt.
I smell terrible.
Jason, a couple weeks ago, you talked about, sometimes you got to call a doctor, and it's been a long time.
Well over 4 hours.
It's been 2 weeks, man.
It's been 4 days.
So with Keenan Allen, is there any way you could actually try to acquire him right now in a league? Because you're going to have to pay up way more than you, should, because you've hit the peak, and he can just kind of be awesome, wide receiver 10 the rest of the year kind of thing. But what is the price in Dynasty if you're saying, hey, I want this guy, he's old, he can help my team, the target share is going to be insane?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to do it right this second. You're just not. You don't trade for someone like this off of back-to-back. He was the wide receiver one
the greatest
2 weeks ago,
wide
as I
receiver
said.
of all time.
He was also the wide receiver one this week. You just that you're paying the premium of premium. If they come out this week without Mike Williams, they have a down week, and Keenan Allen is a little bit lighter, then you look to trade for Keenan Allen. There's no point in trying right now.
Yeah. Upcoming schedule.
They also play the Raiders this week.
So 2 weeks.
2 weeks from now.
You wait 2 weeks, and that's their bye week, isn't it? Because that's when. Trade for him on the bye.
He has a bye
when someone needs a win.
And then he has Dallas, and then at Kansas City, which will be an awesome game. Yeah, it's tough because when these players hit when they're old, it's kind of like I just want to ride them out. I just want to keep going, see where this goes. It was fun. You thought they were a depreciating asset. All of a sudden they get a boost in value, and I think a lot of people think I got to cash out. Ride Keenan Allen. He's Jason mentioned Mostert, RB1 in fantasy. You just keep going. Keenan Allen, the wide receiver 1 in fantasy. You just keep going. That's kind of the direction you go. So, don't feel like you have to bail. Do you think that's one of the biggest lessons here for Dynasty? Just you don't have to cash out.
There are certain types of players that you do have to cash out. There are Derrick Henry was a player that you might have seen some writing on the wall and said, I really need to cash out. Someone like Julio back in the day, the big-bodied, aging wide receivers that, those are kind of an archetype that fails once they hit some age cliff. We see it over and over and over, and they go from star to irrelevant in the blink of an eye. I worry much less about other archetypes like slot wide receivers. Look at Larry Fitzgerald, what he did late into his career. That's what Keenan Allen is going to be good until he says, I'm going to retire. If Keenan Allen's 34 years old, he's going to create separation close to the line of scrimmage. He's not going to be a superstar, but he's going to get the job done and move the sticks and speed. Those are the two, crazy, crazy, crazy speed. Tyreek Hill. I don't worry about Tyreek Hill slowing down. He has a superpower, and a lot of these super elite speedsters, they don't lose their speed. They stay fast till they're 40 years old. So, and that's kind of Raheem Mostert's calling card. So speed and slot guys, I'll take them older.
Yeah. Now I felt like with Keenan Allen, I've lived 10 different lives since he came to the league. Because when he came to the league, remember, he was actually a deep ball guy, from Cal. That's how they used him. Then he got
only rookie year, right?
Rookie year. Then he gets hurt. Then he gets hurt again. And then he's awesome. And then he's just there's been so many different lives, and it's just it's a fun ride. I hope he lives forever. So let's take one more break, and we'll be right back.
Okay, football season is finally here, and here's one thing every fan should know. You can get anything you need for game day delivered with Uber Eats. Well, almost anything, because no, you can't get your dream running back for your fantasy team delivered with Uber Eats. But flapjacks, baby back ribs, and a cold six-pack, yeah, you can definitely get those. Great pass protection? That's a no. Great pizza selection from your favorite places? Yes. Championship defense? Nope. Deodorant? Yep. A well-executed fake punt? No. Delicious fresh produce? Yes. Game-clinching turnovers? No. But pastry turnovers, the kind with delicious apple filling? Oh, yeah. because that's groceries, and get those delivered with Uber Eats too, along with food from your favorite restaurants and other essentials. And the best part? You can get it all without missing a second of the action on your TV. So this football season, stay planted on your couch and get anything, well, almost anything you need for game day by ordering on the Uber Eats app. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime. This Thursday, it's a fight between NFC North rivals when the Detroit Lions head to Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. Not a Prime member? Sign up for a 30-day free trial to stream the game. It's the Lions and the Packers on Thursday Night Football, and it's on Prime. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
All right, I'm going to let Jason talk again because this is an old player that on one of his dynasty teams, he is just going to ride again, potentially, maybe, could. There's a possibility that he wins another title with him.
Oh, man, if I do, that would be 2 in a row.
Schneider's team is better than yours.
3 in a row. No, that would be 4 in a row. And then we could sing it like a song. Champ, 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 champ. Champ, 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 champ. So I do hope to put 4 together. I am not trading away Davante Adams in my situation, in my league. I have not traded away. This is, if we haven't said in a while, if we've got new listeners, Mike and I co-manage a team in the Dynasty League that we're in together, Kyle, and we're the champion, if you couldn't figure that out, the last 3 years in a row. And usually, over the last couple of years, I would have made some moves. I would have probably had to trade high on Travis Kelce and capitalize and get something for him. I have Derrick Henry, where I just said that's an archetype I want to get out of. Now, I talked about speed, and I talked about slot prowess as archetypes I want to keep, the ones that I don't fear falling off a cliff. Davante Adams scares me. Davante Adams is the type of awesome, unbelievably unstoppable wide receiver that I think when it's over, it will be over. I don't think he will have the I'm going to be wide receiver 24 to 36 for an extra 3 seasons. I don't. That's just not usually how his archetype ages out. He is dominant right now. He is awesome right now. You could win a championship with him right now. And so in our situation where we've won back-to-back, we have to go for it. We have to ride this thing until we crash and burn. It could be this season. Derrick Henry, Keenan Allen, Davante Adams, Travis Kelce as like the core of our team. We're not youthful. And so that's where a universal piece of advice doesn't work in Dynasty. There are reasons to hold on to Davante Adams, to ride him into the ground, and there are reasons to trade Davante Adams. I am still of the mindset that I would like to capitalize on Davante Adams. He has been so good, especially after this last week. I mean, 20 targets, 2 touchdowns, 172 yards. This is the week. Just like I said, you don't try to trade for Keenan Allen right now. This is the week you try to trade away Davante Adams if you are in the situation where you want to get something for him before he expires. You try to get a young stud wide receiver plus another pick. Right now, Jackson Smith-Njigba is trash. We talked about him on the main show yesterday morning about he is not good right now for redraft. His outlook isn't good. His snaps are going down. His total counting stats are going down. He's probably someone that maybe you need to cut. But if you're telling me I could get JSN plus a first, something like that, and I know that sounds crazy. People might be like, no one would do that. There are so many leagues where you can get a trade like that done. I was able to do this in our league back in the day when I traded Julio for the aspiring up-and-coming wide receiver named CeeDee Lamb and a first-round pick. I got CeeDee and a first for a guy that the next season was done. His career was over. That's how you stay relevant every year. So if you're in a position where you are like the absolute favorite to win the league, your team is the best. Okay, I'm holding on to Davante Adams. It doesn't do you any good to not win championships and build for the future. Win it now. But I do have some fears over his archetype, over the future of the Raiders. I don't trust the organization. There's a lot of reasons to be a little bit more fearful, none of which are what he's doing on the field, though. He's absolutely outstanding. How are you guys approaching Davante Adams?
Did you guys see the quote that he after the loss? I mean, it's speculative, but it goes to your point, Jason. Like, it is not what he signed up for when he signed a 5-year deal worth $140 million with his.
Oh, and that's what you got to sell him on. He has 4 more years under contract. This is a superstar who is going to be great for many, many more years.
Right. The quote was, he said after they lost, which, by the way, they've put up 17, 10, and 18 points so far. And he's been awesome. And he's basically been their whole offense. Jacoby Myers has been pretty good too. But after the loss, he said, I don't got time to just wait around. It's not my mentality to take all season to figure it out. So I get it. It's a frustrating situation. So I guess when I'm thinking about where we're at, like you mentioned JSN, Garrett Wilson's also been a name where like people thought like, oh, well, that's who Garrett Wilson is going to be. He's going to be Davante Adams for Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, that's a different situation. If you're a rebuilding team, would you rather have Davante Adams or a JSN or Garrett Wilson type bets? What do you think?
I mean,
that's Kyle. Come on. Don't ask silly questions. Obviously, if you're rebuilding, you want.
But I would want
more
than Garrett Wilson right now.
Really?
No, you can't get more.
If you're rebuilding, I would trade Davante Adams for Garrett Wilson straight up. I mean, you can ask for more.
I would ask for
more. Ask for more.
Sure,
ask for more. You're not. People are smarter these days. Like Garrett Wilson going into the season was a 2nd-round redraft pick, right? Like everyone knows, but everyone knows the situation right now, of course. But his archetype is awesome. Draft capital is awesome. He's awesome. So I would be absolutely shocked if you could just move him straight up. If the teams match, right? If you've got a contender trading away Garrett Wilson for Davante Adams, I'd be shocked. But shoot for more. If you can pull that off, do it.
It's basically the trade you made, Jason, which is Julio Jones was still looked at as a top wide receiver. CeeDee Lamb hadn't done it yet. And you got CD Plus, right?
Plus a first.
That's what I'm saying. I think that you can get more because of what the contract states, and he just looks awesome. Like if you just watch Twitter highlights only, if someone's just like, oh, I'm only gonna look at Davante Adams, it's like he's always open, he's really good. So I think you can get more is what I'm trying to say. I think people don't think of him as just expiring, as just he's done. But I agree, Jason, like it's scary. It's scary. Like
everyone knows his age. People receiving Davante Adams will be worried. The one thing that will quell their fears is the contract. You need to make sure that they are aware that he is under contract for 4 more years, because that is very appealing for a dynasty manager to say, oh, okay, this is a player who's getting big money for a long time. He's dominating. This isn't, you just say, look, I'm playing more for the future. I want youth. I'm not going to win it this year. But Davante Adams, he's not going anywhere. He's under contract 4 more years, and he's dominating. Give me Garrett Wilson plus.
Yeah. All right, Betz, hit us with the next one.
Yes, I'm going to talk about a quarterback who, after week 1, I'm not going to lie, I was terrified. I think everyone was when we saw the Seahawks play football, where Geno Smith was the quarterback 25 on the week. We were all terrified. Then we had the offensive line issues, and we were like, okay, this feels like a make-or-break week going into week 2 against the Lions. They're down their starters on offensive line. It could be a real concern after what we saw in week 1. But over the last 2 weeks, Geno has really turned it around. 8.1 yards per attempt. This team is 7th in neutral situation pass rate. They're 8th in no huddle rate. So, like, from a fantasy perspective, we like those things. DK Metcalf, we know, is awesome. Tyler Lockett has shown 0 signs of slowing down in the first couple of weeks. He looks great. And I know we just mentioned, for redraft, like JSN is obviously a concern, but I still feel like I want to bet on him emerging down the stretch as rookies usually do. The offensive line will eventually get healthier. So I think Geno's got a chance to bounce back and stabilize in fantasy. It's been a very up and down, right? Quarterback 25, quarterback 8, quarterback 17. Where's the truth? And I think with all those things considered, I think Geno Smith will rebound and be a high-end QB2, which for Superflex leagues, I think is very valuable. But he's 32.9 years old, so you could say, look, he's almost 33. The offensive line is an issue. You could sell these things in a trade. But I do think Geno Smith bounces back, and I think you might even get a starting year next year for him, just given that they do not have a plan behind him right now. I mean, it's Drew Lock, but there was talks all draft season right back in April of like, well, do they take their quarterback of the future and sort of use Geno as like a bridge? I don't think that's happening next year. The year after, sure, possible. But you could be a contender and give up something not that expensive to go get, I think, a rock-solid QB2 for your Superflex league.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're not going to be in a position to draft quarterback. I believe wholeheartedly that if Anthony Richardson fell to them where they were drafting at 5, he would have been the pick. Geno would be a bridge quarterback. But that didn't play out that way. And so the Seahawks are going to be too good to be up, at a top 5 pick again. They weren't a top 5 pick last year. They just the Broncos were, and they had the Broncos pick. Thanks, Russ.
So what about just in a one quarterback league where you're saying, I don't have an elite option, but I want to mix and match my starters? Like he feels like somebody that might be undervalued, one, because he's old, but also because quarterback is something that just kind of sits on people's rosters. So do you feel like Geno, like you could swap like Jordan Love or somebody else that you could say like, hey, I don't believe in Jordan Love, or I need to be able to throw out a second or something? Like in a one quarterback league, I think he can come a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, quarterbacks are generally just not valued in Dynasty in one QB leagues, except for, Mahomes and Jalen Hurts of the world and those guys, obviously. But yeah, these kind of like middling options to high-end QB2s carry almost no value in these sort of single quarterback leagues. So yeah, I think you could literally be like, hey, I'll give you a second for him. What do you think? He's your backup anyway. If someone is willing to move on as a rebuild team, it seems like a win-win for both sides.
You can probably get Geno for a second in a single quarterback league. I don't know if I heard you right or misheard you, Kyle, but Jordan Love, let's just talk real quick. Were you saying you would trade Jordan Love for Geno Smith? Because I would much rather have Jordan Love in a Dynasty
If I'm a
league.
rebuilding team, that's fine. I'm just saying, like, who would I rather have rest of season? I don't think I'd want to have Jordan Love to like bridge together my team. He's a volatile player who is the only completion percentage he has better is Zach Wilson. His games are real erratic, and I don't know if I would trust him week to week. So, I mean, it would probably be some picks. Like, I'd rather have, it'd probably be Geno, and you need some picks and stuff, but I don't think I'd rather have Jordan Love rest of the season. Is that hot?
Rest of the season, no. I mean, if you're just talking basically redraft, who has more fantasy points from week 4 through week 17, I would still put my chips on Geno Smith.
And that's what I'm saying, as a bridge in a Dynasty league. I'm not looking for this as like, but I don't know if I could trust Jordan Love rest of the season for my team.
Yeah, I think the Packers appear to be on their way to be a playoff contending team. And that's all they need to be for Jordan Love's value to be secure. If they're a playoff contending team, then Jordan Love has at least 2 years, probably maybe even more assuredly than Geno, and he's rushing the ball enough where you've got a good baseline. Like right now, he's on pace for 420 rushing yards, and if you've got that as a baseline in fantasy, yeah, he's completing 53% of his passes, puke. But he also, he hasn't had Christian Watson available. Dobbs has been a little hobbled, so he's, and a good outlet out of the backfield in Aaron Jones. I think I would rather have, even since I think it's close enough
take
as
the
a bridge.
guy.
If you're, I'll take the younger guy.
Yeah, and maybe that's not the right name. Would you rather have Geno Smith or Kenny Pickett in Dynasty?
Geno Smith. I don't believe that Kenny Pickett will ever amount to a fantasy asset at this point.
I think at some point you're trying to swap in a one quarterback league youth for somebody who you think can be a bridge. So there's some combination there. I do like Geno a lot though. I think it's a good call. And hopefully we get some JSN action, guys. I need it in my life. I'm going to give one more player. And Jason, you can jump in whenever you want because this is James Conner, running back for the Arizona Cardinals, who just keeps going, man. Just keep going. I have him on one of my teams, and he's the RB7 right now in fantasy and half-point leagues. And he feels matchup proof. Is that weird to say? Just no matter what, like he's going to be fine.
Yeah, it is weird to say, but pretty much every matchup is a bad matchup. When you expect to lose the game going in, you're never going to be favored. I think before the season, there might have been one week where the Cardinals were favored. Maybe that's changed now after beating the Cowboys, but that was the expectation. So yeah, you're not playing matchups. You're saying, I mean, he was the running back 6 against Dallas's front, who's great. He's been top 24 all 3 weeks, and he looks the part. He just looks so veteran solid. You know what I mean? Like he's not flashy. He's not fancy. It's just like, hey, we're a young team without a lot of talent. Why don't we just keep giving the ball to the guy who just goes and gets us a couple good, healthy yards every single play? And you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of James Conner last year when he came back from injury and they just gave him the ball and he was the running back 20, 5, 14, 6, 4, 12, 5, 15. And let me read you whether they were wins or losses. A win. L. That's when he put up those numbers. They were losing every game but one, and he was great. So, yeah, I do see him as kind of matchup proof.
He's 28 years old. He's under contract for one more year. Next year, if they want to cut him, it's $3 million dead cap, and who knows what the team's going to look like from personnel standpoint. But this is a team that's playing hard, and I traded for James Conner last year when he got hurt. And I just said, hey, I needed a running back. I need a veteran, and I'd get him on the team. I got him for a second-round pick. This was before he went off. So I feel like I am just playing with free money right now. But it does scare me if I was not a contender with this guy. It's like, okay, well, now I think I would want to trade him right away. But look, I found this stat out. James Conner, there are 3 running backs this year that have 4 or more runs of 15-plus yards, okay? Raheem Mostert is one of those, which, makes sense. Najee Harris is one of those, but leading the league with 5 runs of 15-plus yards is James Conner. We're not just getting like little dump-offs and that's it. Like, we're getting big plays from this offense. So I don't know if Jason, if you can speak to it, but what I saw against Dallas, the offensive line actually played pretty well.
Yeah, the offensive line's been doing some cool stuff. I like what they've been doing scheme-wise, getting some of the linemen out on the move. But also, you know, it's funny because James Conner is not a breakaway player.
Right.
He's not an explosive athlete. You talk about he's leading the league in runs of 15 yards or more. Is that what you said? Okay. His highest run of the season is only 26 yards.
It's caught. Right.
Then he has a 22-yarder. Like 15 to 18. That's his breakaway. He does it all the time. It's just like it takes people to bring him down. It takes a village. He'll get out, he'll break one tackle, break another, and then he gets about 10 more yards before the rest of the team catches up to him and takes him down. But it happens over and over and over. He's another player, though, that's like, you know, obviously his injury history. He plays a very violent, physical, powerful role, and so he's not going to play 17 games this year. You do have to be realistic with that.
Okay, so if you're not a contender and you have James Conner on your roster, I'm assuming you're trying to capitalize. So Betz, Jason, like, give an offer that feels like, hey, you could trade him away, or if you're trying to acquire him, like, oh, I'd be willing to give this up.
I 100% want a first-round pick for him. And with the running back landscape right now, I am sure that there is a team out there in your league that is dominating, who has great wide receivers, great quarterback play, and is just dead at running back. And James Conner is the type of running back that's like, hey, you want to go win a championship? You pay up. You make people pay up right now. You get at least a first for James Conner, or you don't get rid of him.
I think, too, though, like what's so funny about running backs like this is all offseason, people have been wanting to move on from James Conner. It's like, well, the Cardinals are going to be terrible, right? They're terrible. You can't start James Conner. And then like this stuff happens and we all hold on to those priors, which I understand. And so I think there's people like You could literally be like, hey, I'll give you a second for James Conner. And they're like, yeah, I've been trying to get out of this guy for 2 years now. Thank God. Like, that's my guy. So I think you could get him for super cheap. I would love to capitalize on a first if I have him and I am looking to move. But if you're trying to go get him, like, it's not going to cost virtually anything, I don't think.
Sure. Offer a second, demand a first. Just depends on which side you're on.
If you're the Connor manager, though, like, you're rebuilding, you're saying, like, I want a young receiver. Your team's loaded. You're not even going to use this guy. I'm looking for the future. So, like, is it in the tier of Jahan Dotson?
I would absolutely take Jahan Dotson. Like, if I'm unloading James Conner, I would trade him for Jahan Dotson for sure.
Okay.
Same.
That's what I think you're going to get, is a wide receiver who obviously has the pedigree, promise, hasn't shown it yet, so he's undervalued, because before the season, no chance that would get done, right? No chance. But now it's like, okay, if you need this, I need this, and it's going to cost you, and it's going to cost you the future whatever of Jahan Dotson. My team can wait for that.
Let me ask you two more names, both of you guys. Would you trade, because we just have so little information, a 3-week sample size of a career. Would you be willing to trade away James Conner for Puka Nacua?
Trade James Conner, get Puka Nacua?
Yeah.
I'd take the shot on that. He's looked great, and we've got, like you said, 3 games in a row of that. Now, the Cooper Kupp coming back thing is a question mark, but rookies don't do this. Like, this is just not what they. I think he's good. I think he's legit good.
I do too. I would do it. Kyle's hesitant. He would do it. But what about Tank
That's
Dell?
the name I thought you were going to say.
Yeah. I wanted the easy one first, because I thought all three of us would trade James Conner for Puka. Tank Dell has shown flashes, but not, Puka's done it all 3 weeks. He came out the gate. Tank hasn't done that. Tank didn't do much his first week, did enough his second week, was good again his third week. He's an itty-bitty baby boy. Are you willing to take the chance that Tank becomes something really valuable in order to get rid of the known commodity veteran in James Conner?
I think if my team was just doo-doo, and I'm shooting for the moon at future stuff, then I'm hoping he becomes Amon Ra light. And he kind of wants to, right? He's gone the same path of, like, I'm going to write down every wide receiver. So I think I would do that.
Yeah, I think that seems fair. And a lot of it comes back to like the pre-draft evaluation of CJ Stroud. I think all of us were pretty in on CJ Stroud, especially Kyle was big time in on that. And he has looked awesome. I love Nico Collins. I think he was a great buy this offseason if you traded for him. But, like, it's those two dudes, right? Like, Robert Woods is declining. Noah Brown's just a guy. I don't think the John Mechie thing's ever going to happen. So I think I would do it.
Yeah. I love players like that, though, because Puka, Tank, we're talking about them in Dynasty, going from, did you pick them up off the waiver wire or in your 3rd round or 4th, and now all of a sudden you're actually getting to trade for them or trade them for great assets. Like, their Dynasty's wild. So those are old, bland, and overvalued players. Next week, just a little tease, pro tease here, we're going to have an old guy with us. Andy's going to be on the show talking some trade targets and trying to trade with Andy. I haven't been in leagues nearly as long as you, but Andy is so hard to trade with.
Really?
Well, because
that's surprising considering he does about 20 trades a week. It seems like he must be easy enough.
That's what I'm saying. He does so many trades that when Andy starts talking to you, is there something he knows that I don't? And is he trying to work? Because he works all the way back from, I know he's trying to take advantage, to he wants to get an offer done. He's a trading fiend, that one. So
you just got to, the trick with Andy is you just got to catch him at the right time.
He's got to do it. All right, that's going to do it for the show. We'll see you next week. Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. If you want to take your Dynasty skills to the next level, check out thefantasyfootballers.com.
Here's something every football fan should know. You can get anything you need for game day delivered with Uber Eats. Well, almost anything, because you can't get your dream running back for your fantasy team delivered with Uber Eats, but they will deliver flapjacks, tacos, six-packs, Great pass protection? No. Great pizza selection? Yes. Championship defense? No. Deodorant? Yes. Turnovers? No. But turnovers to pastry? Yes. Because that's groceries. You can get those delivered with Uber Eats too. And food from your favorite restaurants and other essentials. So this season, get anything, well, almost anything for game day by ordering on the Uber Eats app. Uber Eats is the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.